Hello and welcome back to another SoundSpot tutorial. Cyclone is our compressor that is capable of stereo processing as well as mid and side. We're going to demonstrate that today by using the bass channel on stereo link mode and the pad on mid-side unlink mode. Unlink mode gives us the opportunity to process the mid and sides independently. We can also do this on the left and right stereo. We can process left and right independently, but we're going to leave that unlinked today. And starting with the bass, we're going to dial in some settings. Starting with the threshold, and increase the ratio. So we're overcompensating the settings, and then we can dial these back later on. Slow the attack a little bit more because this is quite a gritty bass. And a short release time. Slightly harder knee, and then we're going to add some saturation in now. So if we take the saturation away to 0%, you'll hear the sound thin out, and you'll hear a lot more grit and growl coming in as we increase that saturation. Just a little bit too much at 100%, let's dial it back to about 80. Parallel, we can bring back some of the original signal, mix it in, and then make up gain to boost the volume. And for now we'll leave that at 1 dB so we're not drastically changing the volume level. We're going to dial back the ratio to about 5:1 and increase that threshold a little bit. And it sounds audibly okay at -30 dB. And there we are, we have our bass channel processed, and we have a before and after, so let's listen to this with the bypass button. And what you're hearing here is the added saturation, the parallel processing, and the fact that the compressor is applying these settings in quite a hard way. And what you're hearing here is the compressor accentuating the settings that we've dialed in, as well as the saturation and the parallel processing as well, to give some of the original signal and saturated signal together. And now moving over to the pads, you can see here that we've got it set to mid-side, and instead of L and R for left and right, we have mid and side, and we can solo these respectively to listen to these independently, and this is more of a mode where we would use this feature to solo each side. So let's start the pad up and start dialing in the settings for the side detail first. Starting with the threshold, let's dial this up, and I'm going to bring the ratio to 4:1. I'm going to increase the attack so we have a slower attack on sound, as this is a pad, and a similar release position, as well as increasing the soft knee. So now you can see that this has reduced quite considerably, and we can use the saturation, parallel and makeup to compensate for this, and thus the side detail is going to increase and make the sound wider. So let's make the sound wider first. We're going to introduce some of the original and the makeup gain to bring it to level. Let's try that saturation. So at 0, it sounds pretty thin. And I'm going to decide here around 90%, and we're going to increase the makeup gain a little bit more. Now, let's hit the solo sides, and we'll hit the bypass. You can hear that the volume does rise, but we have filled out those sides. It does stretch out into the left and right channels a little bit more, giving that appearance of more width, and it gives you more depth into your sound as well, because now we have separated the sides from the mids a lot more. Talking of the mids, let's move over to here. We'll set the threshold to 25 roughly again at 12 o'clock. We're going to have a slow release and attack on this as well. Let's reduce this to 4:1 or somewhere near. Go a little bit harder on the saturation there. We'll just bring some of the original signal in. Now we can mess around with the volume here, so let's bring that to 2 dB. And what we're doing is balancing these sounds out again, and what we want to do is make sure that they are balanced, but we have more width, and more importantly, Cyclone will be adding more depth into your sound. Now what we can do is dial back the threshold a little bit on the mids, and then on the sides as well. Just reset these reduction values here by clicking on them. We're getting roughly equal there. We want the sides to be a little bit more prominent, so we thicken out the pad a little bit. Overall, that sounds a lot better. Now if we bring in the bass again, I'm going to dial back the threshold. I'm going to keep it around 24 there. I'm going to bring this back down to a 4 or a 3 to 1. Let's bring it to a 3 to 1 there. And let's bypass both. And what you can hear is more noticeably the pads are louder and they sound thicker and warmer. Whereas the bass is very subtle, but it does add a lot of extra harmonic content, giving it a little bit more weight and a little bit more warmth as well. And that's all just done within Cyclone and nothing else external. That is just Cyclone's processing giving that sound. And there we have it, the two process signals using Cyclone only. There is no other processing on these channels at this time. We can see the demonstration of mid-side mode to give extra width and especially more depth into that pad sound, and we've got more power, grittiness, and more importantly weight and warmth in our bass using the saturation and the harder compression. We hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please drop us a comment and a like, and if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon.